It's finally time for every child on the planet to learn in a one-on-one setup whenever she desires. So what does the teacher do? Instead of only teaching one child at a time, within 1 hour, you can be coaching 6 different children at the same time.
Yeah.
One-on-one, 10 minutes each. And then the 15 minutes, the child learns with the AI tutor who looks like you, teach like you, have this connection with you. And then the 10 minutes you do will be to inspire, will be to engage. So that will be a totally different new world.
Yeah.
Messy and masterful. In this podcast, we speak about the success of people who have achieved, built, or done something amazing, special, remarkable, noteworthy, and/or fabulous. Think of presidents, doctors, chefs, architects, filmmakers, writers, philosophers, CEOs, journalists, and the list goes on of people who've had a genuine impact on this world. But rather than underlining their career victories, we speak about the challenges they needed to overcome to actually get there. In each episode, we discuss 3 of such challenges, obstacles, difficulties, and/or hurdles with our guest, putting the messy of their lives next to the masterful. A very warm welcome to you. My name is Aldo, and I'm so happy you could make it. So sit back, relax, and download the podcast here.
Welcome, dear listener. I am so happy you could make it yet again for another great interview of Messy and Masterful. And this one is an interview with not 1, not 2, but 3 people. Another session held at WISE in Doha, so the World Innovation Summit for Education in Doha in November. And this one is about the impact of artificial intelligence in education. A conversation held with 3 significant education leaders, Shannon May, Wendy Kopp, and Shannon May. And if you want to know more about them, check out our show notes. Each hailing in different regions of the globe, working on education in different ways. So it made for a very interesting conversation, looking at different cultural and geographic perspectives and different ideas around what the potential impact of AI could be on our education system. I hope you enjoy this conversation. It goes together with a great video that was made as well that you can check out on our YouTube channel. For me, really an honor to be able to moderate such a session and to talk to such people so in depth. And it is not the standard, what are your 3 challenges? But nevertheless, I hope you will enjoy this interview and learn a little bit from it. The impact of AI in education. And I got the green light to start. So to everyone here, a very warm welcome. Whether you're with us live or whether you're with us through WISE on air, this is quite a setup. We have here microphones, we have here cameras, but most importantly, we have some wonderful guests that we're going to be talking to today. And we are here at the conference, Creative Fluency, Human Flourishing in the Age of AI. Beautiful title for the World Innovation Summit for Education for WISE 11. A very warm welcome to everyone here. My name is Aldo and I am the founder of TeachPitch and the host of the Messy and Masterful podcast. And I was honored to moderate this specific panel with some amazing guests. Before I get to the guests, I'm quickly going to do an intro to the topic that we're going to discuss. So AI is here to stay. Machine learning will be an integral component of many tools that we use for both our professional as well as private growth. Experts say that it will forever change the workings of our world. Summits like these are crucial to identify what those changes will be and to define how we can embrace AI or alternatively reject it to ensure that it positively contributes to the way we teach and learn. For this WISE on Air interview, I am joined by, again, 3 amazing people who each in their own way have had a genuine impact on the state of education. My guests today know what impact is, and this conversation is meant to define how AI will potentially change the impact they have had for teaching and learning
globally, but potentially also for their regions. I am joined here on my left. Let me start there with Cindy May. Cindy is the founder and CEO of VIP Kit, an education technology company that connects a global community of English language learners with the world's best English teachers for real-time online language immersion learning. Cindy was selected into the Young Global Leaders of the World Economic Forum of 2018 and an Eisenhower Fellow of 2020. Very warm welcome to you, Cindy.
Thank you.
Going to my right, we have Wendy Kopp, WISE laureate for the WISE Prize of Education in 2021. Wendy is the CEO and co-founder of Teach for All, a global network of independent organizations working to develop collective leadership to ensure all children have the opportunity to fulfill their potential. Prior to launching Teach for All in 2007, Wendy founded and led Teach for America, and as I said before, she received the WISE Prize for Education in 2021, among many other things. I do apologize, I'm trying to keep the bio short. You've all done great work, but we want to get to the conversation as quickly as possible. And then right across from me, Dr. Shannon May. She's the president and co-founder of New Globe, the largest supporter of technology-enabled schools across Africa. New Globe supports nation and state governments and communities by creating powerful technology-enabled education systems. A very warm welcome to the three of you. It's really a privilege and an honor to have you with me here today. The first question I have is actually for the three of you, and I'm going to do a little round starting with Wendy. In the intros, I said something around embracing AI or rejecting AI, just to get a sense of temperature of AI here around the table. Who of you thinks embrace AI? Embrace AI. And who of you?
Embrace AI with care.
With care,
But
yes.
Embrace. I mean,
Embrace.
You can't let it. The world is moving forward.
Okay, yes, yeah. So there's no reject AI around the table. Okay, so we're all, that's good. We're all embracers. Yeah,
Yes.
no, most definitely. So that's a good tone. Yeah, I think the same because we have no choice. Yeah, would you agree with that? We have no choice but to embrace AI because it's here to stay.
It would be like saying 20 years ago you're going to reject the internet.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not doing this.
It's not really an option. Like it is. This is where we are now. It's how do we use this tool to improve our work, to support things, to advance, to make things more positive.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I can't agree more. I was sitting on a panel with the former Singapore Minister of Education. He said something very impressive. In the future, the employer will choose between people who use AI, people who do not use AI.
Yeah.
Right. So I think
that's the distinction.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So did he also say what will happen to those who do not use AI? What do you...
Very difficult.
Very difficult. Yeah, it's gonna. Yeah, yeah. Cindy, that brings me to you as a technology builder. When looking at the advancement of AI, do you think that the global worries, right, and then specifically of generative AI, the global worries as they, for instance, have been defined in Bletchley Park in London in October, do you think they are merited?
Well, I can agree more with what Dr. Shannon said about with care.
Yeah.
Right? But then, of course, like any other technology or tools that we embraced in human history, anything can be misused or out of control. This one particularly, of course, is more like difficult to not to, right? But I think the fact of when it comes to learning and growing, especially in this knowledge-based world, if you want a future for our kids where a global classroom learning is accessible, is affordable, personalized in the Socratic ways, there's no other option of embracing the technology. And Wendy has always been my role model in like the education world, where she's bringing like the best teachers to the kids who otherwise wouldn't have access to those teachers, and then the teachers themselves are leadership of the future. Yeah. So with the people of the high touch and then with the high tech, there can be a truly amazing future where learning is no longer a privilege, it's a possibility for everyone who wants it.
Yeah. Wendy, you were just called an example, so over to you. You represent an enormous collective of teachers and students globally, and you started in the United States. Also, to Shannon's point, embrace but with care. Like, I know it's difficult, but could you give an idea of kind of the response to AI, and specifically on that care point?
Yeah. Well, I actually think we're just seeing a lot of enthusiasm all across our network for leveraging AI as a tool for reinventing how we work towards our educational aspirations. I think teachers across our network are already seeing ways that it's going to make their lives so much easier.
Yeah.
It enables them to, develop strong lesson plans in a tiny fraction of the time, to assess their students and generate ideas for engaging lesson plans, to, access feedback on their own development. Like, already, just in a few months, we've seen just enormous possibilities. So I'm hearing lots of enthusiasm, and also, of course, concern about being responsible and ensuring that students are safe through all of this. But I think that there are so many possibilities ahead. I've heard so many network teachers and alumni basically say that finally they really believe we're going to see schools become different than they have been for hundreds of years.
Yeah. So that's a positive note. I had a colleague from the WISE Accelerator back in the days. He said, humans get the best, machines do the rest. So that's all on a positive note. But I would like to go, just to make the conversation interesting, to what potentially could go wrong. Like, specifically when we look at teaching and learning, could we imagine something that wouldn't be right, that we need to say, that we need to look at with care? Is there something we can already visualize?
Well, one thing I would say, I'm an optimistic person, so I like to look at the opportunities, and I do think that AI has the potential to create more equity in the system, but we will have to take great care to ensure that it does. And there are obviously lots of risks that it won't, both because of kind of the bias inherent in the kind of data that's out there, but also just because of the ongoing connectivity and device inequities, and because of the incentives that are kind of driving a lot of the edtech space right now. Like, I think what I hear from so many education entrepreneurs out there is that the incentives of the industry are all about fast growth and user numbers rather than necessarily about equity and quality. And so I think we need to figure out how to ensure that the public interest is served, and it's just going to take a lot of care to ensure that.
Yeah. Shannon, what are your thoughts? You mentioned with care, and it's coming back.
Coming back.
So I think Wendy said inequity. AI could create inequity if we're not careful. Do you see any things? And
well, I think most things in education, like education is a system. So a lot of the issues that relate to either generating equity or reinforcing inequity are decisions that are made at a political level. So I would see part of the path towards greater inequity is if this remains a technology that is used ad hoc by teachers, just whoever decides to use it, who decides to put the effort in. And then you get this incredible amplifying effect of your rock star teacher, your strong teacher, they keep pushing things forward. If you're the child who happens to be in that classroom, you're blessed by that experience. Yeah. If you're the child who's in a classroom where the teacher isn't opting to use AI or isn't having the support to improve their practice, the gap of your learning experience is going to get farther and farther and farther away, which again comes back to education as a system. So the decisions of governments and leaders to decide not to have ad hoc decisions being made in each classroom, but to say we as a government, we as a ministry are going to use AI to support AI use to ensure that all teachers, even if they don't have a computer in their classroom, to Wendy's point, like where we work across sub-Saharan Africa, most classrooms do not have computers. They don't have a computer in the school. They don't have an internet connection. But there are ways to engage AI behind the scenes and then to be able to use smartphones and the cellular data networks to publish AI-generated and edited materials that improve a teacher's practice. But that has to be decided at a system level. And so in many of the places that have the greatest inequity and the greatest current unfortunate low levels of learning and language mastery are the places that need these resources the most to improve teachers' practice. But to get that into the classroom is something that the teacher can't really decide by themselves. They're going to need the support of the system to support them to bring it forward.
Yeah. One of the things that came up, I spoke earlier to Kian Katanfurush from Stanford, computer scientist lecturer. He spoke about skills within companies, building the right skills for people to accept AI. I can imagine that schools and governments need a similar approach. And he said, like, many will be behind if we're not careful. Do you see something similar happening for governments and schools even more?
I think there's not a resistance as much of I don't think it's an attitude problem to overcome as much as where to begin, right? And some of that relates to, well, what data would we use? Do we have the right data to feed in to do predictive models for our own system? It's often the starting point, and I think there is something about what is the starting point in each location or each government, and then how to move forward from there.
Yeah.
I can probably share a few examples.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yesterday, I had an interesting panel in the morning where a professor from Stanford, from MIT, and like Singapore University, we sat together, talk about AI. And then 4 teachers came to me, and they all said, oh, great conversation. So where do I start?
Yeah.
And then I felt so ashamed because I had to tell her, okay, so first of all, define your own use case and go to open like ChatGPT, and then, whether you want a teaching plan or some personalized content for your student, you can create it, but then you've got to prompt it yourself, right?
Yeah. There is no point in denying it. I am in love. And you might have already known it, that I was in love with podcasting and interviewing people all over the world. Well, I'm also in love now with a recording tool for our podcast episodes, which is called Riverside.fm. I've kissed many frogs when it came to recording episodes, but this one is really the one with the most amazing studio features. Riverside really offers you everything you need in creating the perfect episode, whether these are short or long, whether these are multiple people you're talking to or just you, or whether this is about your show notes or the video recording or even creating easy snippets that you can use on social media. Riverside truly has it all. If you go to our show notes, you will find a link to Riverside, and if you use that link, you'll even get a 20% discount. Yes, you heard that correctly, a 20% discount in getting started with this incredible podcast recording tool. Look no more, Riverside.fm is here.
Secondly, go to some apps which are established and use that as a tool. But that doesn't solve the problem. She looked so puzzled. And then I wish I had a better solution, right? And that the other teacher came to me and said, I work in Dubai, international school. My school principal hates AI. He forbids us from using AI in the classroom. What can I do as a teacher? I said, bring him to WISE. That's probably helpful. I was talking to this startup today, Mantool. They are from Colombia, and they've developed a very simple tool for teachers to develop their personalized lesson plan and try to do some closed loop feedback of all these integration. But then they're also facing a lot of challenges. How can you take all the content, all the different learning management systems, like do the low-tech environment sort of data collecting feedback and then integrate into their own system so it can be personalized and launched? That's a big question. But also I can speak to my experience working on the VIP Kid platform. It's not AI, it's just mobile internet and teaching online. But when I started 10 years ago, teachers thought teaching online is a crazy idea. Because you wouldn't be imagining talking to a screen where the 3-year-old, 4-year-olds on the other side don't even speak English. You gotta sort of make it work, right? And we actually went through a whole long process of teacher development, training, online seminars, even in-person meetups to coach the teachers, right? But the problem, I think, are twofold. One is the awareness and adoption, both top-down and bottom-up. Similarly, with AI, how can we do that? And secondly, when industry practitioners are building whatever fancy app like us we're doing, are we consulting the teachers' user needs and demands, and are we building something really, fixed and solves it for the problem.
Yeah.
So I think those are the two challenges.
Yeah. It sounds also, and Wendy, I'm looking at you, it sounds also like, yes, a higher proactivity is required, maybe to a certain extent, go out and explore yourself. But then again, as Shannon said, like teachers are often led by public policy and decisions that have been made top down. Wendy, with Teach for All having a presence in 61 countries, do you feel government should stimulate proactivity and kind of this, for schools and teachers to survive?
I mean, we're thinking a lot about this whole question across Teach for All, because we think teachers, like if we want AI to be a force for equity and excellence in education, teachers need to be at the center of the effort. And we're thinking about what we can do as a network of teachers working in marginalized communities in such diverse contexts to, one, ensure that they do have the connectivity, the devices, the hardware, the software, the teacher training to be using AI and Edtech in their classrooms. Secondly, to build a global learning community among them and across them, because if we're surfacing their insights about what's really working, we'll learn so much faster about how to use this in all the most responsible and revolutionary ways. Yeah. And then finally, through getting them into the Edtech space so that they help alongside others kind of drive the direction of it.
Yeah. As Cindy also said, there's a top-down and there's a bottom-up approach, grassroots approach. Shannon, with New Globe, have you worked with loads of governments in Africa?
Yeah, we mostly work for governments across Africa. So I would like to reframe the top-down versus bottom-up approach. I think it has to be integrated. Yeah. Right. So one of the disconnects in education tends to be what happens in the classroom is divorced from the textbook publisher, which is divorced from the assessment creator, which is divorced from whoever's in charge of teacher training. Like all of these are run as like independent, siloed entities, and none of them speak to each other, which is why the textbook creator doesn't change any of their material based on the assessments from the kids and their actual learning outcomes. They don't even know what the learning outcomes are. The person responsible for teacher training doesn't know what the learning outcomes are, or often even what textbooks are used in the schools. Yeah. Part of when you have more integration and more awareness of all those different functions speaking to each other, that's actually where like there's some pretty massively amazing things that can happen using AI when you can regenerate your entire course creation based on the pupils' learning outcomes from their formative and summative assessments. I mean, that's like mind-blowing. Like it hasn't ever happened before. But that's possible now if you integrate these things and then take the data across 1 million students' scores over a course of a year, see what they mastered and they didn't. You can see differences by gender, by geography, by even who their